That's a Shame is brought to you by the people who support us over at patreon.com/shamecity.
If you have $1,
$2.
$1 to spare, join us again at patreon.com/shamecity. Please.
The bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Hello and welcome to the new and invigorated, the planned and pre-recorded, the triumphant return of your favourite, previously shambolic, now super structured.
Shamebolic. Let me hear you with that idea.
That's a shame.
Yes.
My name is Declan. Opposite me is
Isaac. Hi.
And we're back from the whirlwind week that was the launch of Big Bad Books and our first Twitch affiliate stream. What a time it has been.
Crazy time. I mean, I don't know about you, but there are different ways of handling fame. Some people, like, it gets their heads very quickly, and some people stay very grounded. I'm in the former category. I've forgotten all of our previous fans and friends, and ever since we got those good emotes and we wore our party hats and we launched our other show, to me, this is like charity work. I'm doing this just out of kindness only.
Really?
And that's a quickly running dry reserve.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna. You're not.
I think we've got another episode in us, and then this might be going out with a bang. I'm joking, guys.
Look at him.
That was a bit. I was doing a bit of comedy.
You had me.
Yeah,
you had me going.
Of course, we're back, and as Declan alluded to there, part of the great scheme, the God's plan. I used to know someone whose first name was God's Plan, one word, no apostrophe.
Wow.
The God's plan in this case is that by pulling back from the time constraints of a weekly show for TAS, we're able to really cut to the quick, skim off the beautiful bubbling oil from the surface of our jar phrases.
You know when you make a cup of tea, and then sometimes for no reason that science just fails to explain.
Because I don't know this.
You get the tea scum on the top.
What is the tea scum?
Anyone who's made a cup of tea will know
what sort of scum is that?
That sometimes it's just like there's just like a little bit of skin.
What do you mean?
There's just a bit of skin on the top.
Like a soup's skin?
Yeah, like a sort of.
It's solid.
Just like it's not quite, but it's not quite liquid. Yeah, it's
what
sort
the
of
fuck
plasmoid.
is bringing that about?
Well, it's something to do with water and milk, but not
is
always.
Is it like curdling? Is it like splitting the milk?
Sort of, but not really. It's a really inexplicable phenomenon.
Fucking foul.
It's not good, but
and this is what the show is.
No.
Oh, it's
what
not
I'm saying is that we have done that thing that you sometimes have to do. You just spoon it away.
Okay.
And now all you've got left is a great big, beautiful, steaming mug of tea.
I was worried you were calling us.
Welcome to That's a Tea Scum.
Now, in order to really set the agenda, because it fell to me to kind of redefine this new era of TAS.
Wow.
I wanted to do it with caution, and I've been consulting with several outside sources just to, bounce these ideas off, because all too often we're in our own echo chamber these days.
Yeah, and we have the capacity to go low.
Where others would wish that we might
to
elevate.
Stoop for content, to cover things that are really like beneath us and the listenership. And that was when we had no time to prepare. That was when we were rushed for content, and you just find the most disgusting, awful thing that you can, and you sort of dip your hands into it and you bring it up
what comes out
to the surface. And so
look in the webbing.
So you didn't want to start like that.
Well, I didn't want to.
Right.
But what happened was, it's a funny story.
Go on.
I was looking for all the different notes that I had for episode ideas.
Yeah.
And for some reason, and I'm confused as you are about this, a lot of them, like the unifying theme was these things are foul.
Oh.
There was an
episode on tea scum.
Yeah, that one's had to be quickly shelved and retooled in light of today's rather content thefting chat. But whether it was a moral problem or just a kind of visceral nastiness, a lot of them did have the theme of that's a shame, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that is the name of the show.
In order to elevate us then, and to show that, no topic is unworthy of investigation, There are no unworthy topics. There are just unworthy investigators.
Unworthy podcasts.
Exactly that. I thought that we would take a look today at a kind of edutainment remit.
That's good. Yep.
Part of the attraction of the show, I suppose, has been our Britishness. People love the UK. They love to learn about it because it's a great place.
What they call it, Great Britain.
They wouldn't call it that for no reason.
Now,
how many World Cups have we won?
Let me tell you, it's coming home.
That's what I've
It's coming
heard.
home, not the World Cup.
Certainly not
It is coming home. So just so that I'm aware, you know, we're keeping some elements of the old show. We're ditching others. You've decided no more art.
Fuck that.
Yeah, but you know, are we keeping the old? Is it an anecdote?
For sure.
We're keeping that. Is it an anecdote?
It's a deep dive.
It's a deep dive.
I don't have any anecdotal experience of today's topic myself. Maybe you do, and if so, then sure, maybe it becomes.
I hope I don't.
I've picked the episode title, "A Very British Pastime," and I wonder if on that basis you could venture any guesses as to the sort of area that we'll be interrogating today, Declan, because you're a deeply British man. You often say, "Cut me deep and watch our bleed Queen's blood."
I'm gonna just
Red, white,
close
and
my
blue.
eyes and I'm gonna say a word. And I don't want you to make any sounds, but then I want you to either when
Just
I open, I
launch
want
in.
you to have
What?
a thumb up or a thumb down, just
tell
so that
you-
I can see.
I'm going to launch into the episode content as soon as you do. I'm not even going to tell you. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Dogging.
The term is thought to originate as far back as the 1950s with a contested etymology. Either taking a dog for a walk as a cover to spy on people fucking, quote, dogging the every move of a publicly fucking couple, or using the excuse of taking a dog for a walk as a cover to either spectate or participate in the beautiful British God Save the Queen act that is dogging. And it's about this that today's episode will focus primarily, as I say, as a means to, I think people don't know about this too well outside the UK often. It kind of spikes and declines.
Thank God. Just before we do launch into that, and I'm sure that there'll be lots of times to discuss this later in the episode, but
sure.
It does say something about this great nation of ours that you gave me no clues other than
that's true.
very British pastime.
Yeah, to confirm, I didn't tell Declan that it was dogging so that he would say that. He just thought, what is the most British
pastime that Isaac would have looked into for the first episode of this show, and it just is dogging.
Yeah, it simply is. It's a national treasure.
Sport.
Yeah,
almost.
Institution. I've arranged the episode thus. We've got just some overview, the history, if you will. I love to dive, you know me, I'm a deeply historical guy.
We're big on the history,
Love
aren't
to
we?
dive back into all that, what some would call boring detail of a shit time called the past.
Yeah.
Where I personally love to be.
Yeah, because I'm interested, because my understanding of dogging is lots of it is roadsides and car parks.
Yes, it is.
So before those were big, there can't have been a lot of dogging.
Yeah, before there were dogs, of course.
Well, that was
a very different landscape.
It was actually one of those things like the tin opener being invented before the tin. Dogs came about afterwards. So
and then it was just like a convenient amendment to an already existing plan. The curious thing about dogging is that it occupies, well, there are many curious things about it. One of them, which I didn't know, is that it occupies a kind of legal twilight zone in terms of, no one will commit to what it is in law, which is very unusual. The UK is an increasingly litigious society in the same way that America is. I think we're following largely in the trend of the US of just suing everyone for everything at all times. And yet there are, and also we're quite a deeply socially conservative country.
Yeah, and that is deep. That's not on the surface. That is down there in the blood somewhere.
It's curious then that the act of dogging it up, as they may call it in the community, I don't know. I haven't done research onto the specific terminology they use, but if you are dogging it up, you are essentially outside of the purview.
You're operating outside the law.
Jurisprudence.
Like someone with diplomatic immunity.
This is from the police. Public sex is a popular and quasi-legal activity in Britain. It is treated as a crime only if someone witnesses it. So it's like a Schrodinger's cat.
If you're doing it but not see it, surely
Schrodinger's dog in this case.
Surely that's the case with all crime.
I don't think it is, because there are people, if you're burgling a house, that's criminal anyway, right? Because the house, like, entailed in the definition of burgling is taking property of other
What I meant
people's.
though is that, like, if no one knew you'd taken it,
Yeah.
Is
would
it a
still
crime?
be. Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Right.
there has been a crime even if you don't know who
Cool.
did the burgling.
Right, and
Whereas
there's just
with
no
dogging,
prosecution, I
there is
see.
no crime unless there is a spectator who specifically takes offence at it.
So, what about, is there anything on terms of like, if I saw this happening on CCTV, like I wasn't there when it happened, I saw it on CCTV, I
That's
didn't
actually
like
so
it.
legal that you have to take part in it. You're required
You have
by
to
law
jack
to
it.
participate.
Yeah.
The earliest reference I could find to dogging in any like official context comes from 2003, which is a lot later than I thought.
Wow.
The idea seems to be that the term originates as early as the 50s and comes from the railways, which I could find no further explanation about why that was the case.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine, a railway fundamentally doesn't have a lay-by. One
doesn't
thing that
have a
trains
lay-by.
don't do is they just deviate slightly off their course to fuck.
No, but they do deviate off course to just stop. We've got one here.
Really?
Yeah, have you never seen it? You go down to the station and you look up to the left and there's just a train sort of waiting, and then another train
And you're
comes past
suggesting
it.
that people are fucking on the train.
Well, they could be. I'm not saying that they are. I'm
But if
saying
they
that we
were, it
don't
would
know
be-
they're not.
It wouldn't be illegal.
Unless you got offended by it.
True. Dogging craze sex disease risk is the kind of noun heavy BBC article title.
Dogging craze, sex disease risk. So there was so much dogging going on at one point
2003 specifically.
in 2003 that they were spreading it like wildfire.
Yeah. This is a BBC article, Thursday the 18th of September. The internet and text messaging are fueling a practice which involves unprotected sex with strangers in public parks. Health chiefs in Kent have taken to posting messages on sites promoting dogging, warning of a rise in sexually transmitted diseases. More than 20,000 people are registered with one UK dogging news group. And the location of dogging events, in inverted commas.
Wow.
I don't know why, because they are events.
Yeah, in a
you
way.
can't contest
A group
that
of
they
people,
occur in
yeah.
time. Is now frequently advertised on websites communicated via mobile phone text
I
message.
suppose it does make it sound sort of like a ticketed thing.
I think it's an Eventbrite situation. It's like you have to have a ticket, but you don't have to pay, just so we know capacity.
Right, I see, yeah.
Somewhat, if Maud's bringing
Give us an
sandwiches-
idea of numbers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The NHS health promotion team covering the Medway area in Kent noticed that the number of cases of STDs had risen towards the end of 2002. You'll probably remember it was all the rage.
God, yeah, like...
Many patients said they'd probably contracted the illness as a result of the dogging.
right, yeah. Probably as a result of that.
The warning that the NHS health promotion team in the Medway area of Kent were posting on all these message boards is really, it's very short, but it's just very weirdly phrased. Avoid the sex lottery for yourselves and your associates. Stop dogging.
The sex lottery.
Why are they trying to make it sound
BBC
so cool?
After Dark.
Why are they referring to them as our associates, our fellow doggerers? It's just such a formal. They've tried to make it sound like a kind of job, but
My
also a
dogging
job that's
colleague.
quite cool. Dr. Richard Byrne is from the Rural Affairs.
Dr. Dick Byrne. Are you joking? Come
from
on.
the Rural Affairs and Environment
Taking
Group
the piss
at
now.
Harper Adams University College in Newport. A lot of words there. And he carried out a survey. He's basically done an investigation into dogging. Purely for business purposes.
Yeah. Academia, scholarship,
Ballpark figure, what percentage of all parks in the UK do you think have reported dogging happening?
98%.
It's actually 60%, which for me is weirder than it being all, and also weirder than it being barely any. Because, I've lived here for a while, this horrid country. I've never personally encountered dogging, ever. I don't drive, so maybe that lowers the risk, and I don't have a dog. And also, I don't fuck people in lay-bys. So I guess that concomitance of factors.
You're outside of the three big Venn diagram
it's like
circles
the fire
there,
triangle,
aren't
the
you?
fire pyramid thing. But I've been to a lot of parks. I've never come across it. But 60% is for me, it's at the point where, it's more than 1 in 2, right?
Yeah,
I should have seen it somewhere.
The thing about it as well is that it's enough to suggest that there's not a lot of preference as to where they'll do it. But
Doesn't seem to
also...
be, yeah.
that it does seem that there's specifically lots of places that are maybe off limits.
Yeah,
they won't
40%
do it
of
in front of
parks.
Buckingham Palace. You've got to respect her match.
Maybe they'll only do it in front of Buckingham Palace. To respect her match.
Yeah.
Basically, he found that, I think his survey was originally just into, what are some problems people have And he was expecting people to be like vandalism, fly tipping, but most people were like, it's all the dogging.
It's all the dogging.
Please make it stop. There is a dogging craze sex disease risk.
I've not encountered it either.
He said, quote, it's a nationwide activity, which makes it sound like a kind of national pastime.
Yeah.
And in the last 4 or 5 years, it really has grown. This trend was picked up quickly by a very unlikely media outlet in the form of Wired.com,
Right.
who cover, tech news.
Yeah.
And it does seem like the BBC is trying to make it a kind of, almost like a foreshadowing of the culture wars, like tech. Like, oh my God, like mobile phones are bad. They're causing people to fuck
in the lay-by.
And that's perhaps why I can only assume it's like the dogging correspondent, Leander Carney. You can't do us for that because I said it was a guess. For Wired picked up dogging craze has Brits in heat as their headline. A new sex fad called dogging is sweeping Britain. And it's all thanks to the wonders of technology. I guess they're being quite sex positive.
The technology being the car.
Yeah. Giving new meaning to the term flash mob, the Brits have invented a new sex craze called dogging that mixes sex, exhibitionism, mobs, and the internet. I don't know about the mobs.
I don't know. Like, my understanding of this was that it was a much older pastime than the last 2 decades.
I think
it's being written about as if it's only just started.
There may be an element of like, they're trying to sort of gaslight us as to the true lineage. Like King Arthur's probably doing it. They don't want us to know that like all of the greats from
Queen
history,
Victoria and Prince Albert, most of their kids were conceived by the M6.
Dogging kids. Dogging combines technology with swinging, cruising, and voyeurism.
God, imagine finding out you were a dogging baby. That would be the absolute worst.
That's very good. Dogging is the broad term used to cover all the sexual outdoor activities that can go on, says the dogging FAQ.
That can go on.
At a popular dogging site. This can be anything from putting on a show from your car to a gangbang on a picnic table. Why specifically a picnic table? That seems
because that's what you get in parks.
It's upsetting though that people are going to be picnicking
people
on that
will
dogged
there.
table. Dogging appears to be popular and widespread, attracting heterosexual couples and single men and women of all ages, income brackets and backgrounds. Not surprisingly, however, it tends to attract more men than women.
Weird.
Although dogging has been growing in popularity for the last couple of years, it only reached the mainstream when soccer player Stan Collymore, one of Britain's most famous athletes, admitted to attending numerous dogging meets. Naturally, Collymore's confession sparked a storm of tabloid controversy. And I looked this up because I didn't remember this.
Yeah.
But he played for England, didn't he, Stan Collymore? And so that must have been quite big news. Do you know anything about it? Did it come out as like, presumably he didn't just one day say, oh, I dog 24/7. Like, did it come out?
What do you think of England's chances? And have you ever fucked by the side of the motorway?
It came out and he got a divorce or something.
I don't remember it coming out. I do just remember that every time he pops up, puts his head above the parapet,
someone breaks out.
The dogging accusations.
Oh?
Well, they're not accusations, are they?
It's fact. Collymore said he was, quote, curious about what happened at dogging sites after reading about the activity on the internet.
Having read about exactly what it entailed, Collymore was curious as to exactly what it entailed.
Dogging, continues Wired.
How many times do you think you'd have to go dogging before you realised what was going on?
He said he went between 12 and 15 times.
Between 12 and 15 is 15 times.
Dogging is becoming so popular or so notorious that a trio of music professionals this month released a single celebrating dogging and an accompanying sexy video. They're a group called U-Rockers. I don't know them personally.
No, they're not.
They're a collective of sexual anarchists born of the internet. Still more internet.
Born of the internet.
And apparently one of them is a nationally known DJ. They all were anonymous. And one of them's a high-profile producer who'd worked with Kylie Minogue and Robert Plant. Possibly.
Fatboy Slim's been dogging.
Here's the lyric. Well, this is one of the lyrics in the song. Sex in public feels so right. Honk your horn, it's a dogger's delight.
Dogger's delight.
It sounds like it's trying to be rappers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it is.
It sounds like it's trying to be
Have you listened
Public
to the
Enemy.
song? I bet if you do, it's the
find
exact same. I bet it's sampled.
I did find
Fino Norman Cook.
He loves that sort of thing. I was inspired by the sort of absence of that song from the immediate internet, the kind of like top layer
The
web.
superficial internet.
And I just searched. It's not a search term I'm proud of. Dogging songs. And this one I found on
Dogging
SoundCloud
shanties.
is a poem set to music. It's very brief. I'm going to play the whole thing. It's by a poet called Roger Cuthbert, and it's called Bertie Went Dogging for the First Time. Have a listen. Tell me what you think.
The night seemed darker than as Bertie went dogging for the first time. He was filling in as a favour for Craig, who was away in Tokyo on business. I'm sure Craig would do the same for me, he thought, if I ever had to miss the bingo.
And there you go. So I think the gist was Bertie was dogging for the first time. He was filling in for Craig. Who was
Filling in
Tokyo
is
on
amazing.
business.
Like I'm injured this week. Anyone for the five-a-side team?
It's an interesting thing to be inspired by, to create art, but I guess we're kind of doing the same thing now because this does count.
I'm really interested in something that you mentioned a little while ago about how they were talking about this as specifically heterosexual. Because there is this idea that if you fuck in public as a man, you're cottaging, right? If you're a gay man, which is weirdly very criminal.
Yes,
it's
funny, it's weird that, isn't it?
Funny that, isn't it? But
maybe that's why they're trying to keep dogging,
Yeah.
as this like sexual loophole.
sometimes in the grey area of the law. But what I find interesting is also the statistic that it attracts more men than women, and I just wonder how many times they all show up and there's just not enough to go round, as they say.
What?
Do you like,
Let's take this doggy
straws?
to the cottage.
Does she have to like take it all for the team, or like if you turn up and there's no women, do they just go home? No, like
definitely not. You don't want to waste a trip. You don't want
all that petrol money.
That's the history of dogging, and as you can see, it's a history that is like, it's folklore. Effectively, it's hard
That seems to have been erased. In the most part.
I trawled a real variety of unfortunate fora, one of which is shutting down, which we'll talk about at the end. Like weirdly, like this week, it's shutting down forever. It's been going for
end of an era.
over a decade, and it seems to be a real kind of oral history element to it, where people have like their own side of the story. They're like, we didn't used to call it dogging back then. And they'd have their own terms for it, and it was like very localized. But I think probably the internet is responsible, or maybe this could be like a Black Mirror kind of investigation. It must be responsible for people realizing like how numerous they are, right? Like people are standing up and being like, I dog. And they're like, I dog. We all dog.
We're dogging like crazy.
The rest of this episode is dedicated to those of you out there who have heard of dogging now, maybe for the first time, and you're like, let me get amongst that. Let me get involved.
Can I just say, if you are out there, stop listening to the pod.
We don't kink shame here on TAS very frequently, unless it's super gross. There have been lots of various, as I said, internet havens for dogging, including an unfortunately now banned subreddit called r UK_dogging, which there was some archived stuff from, but not enough to really get a taste of them.
And any idea as to why it's no longer with us?
I can't say. I mean, someone must have seen it and been offended.
Probably good reasons.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
But what I did find on Reddit is a bunch of largely Americans who are just confused about what it is, to the point that this person who posted 9 months ago on the Ask UK subreddit thinks that it's a game or a sport. They're like, dogging sport. Is this real? Hello. One of the weird things the UK has, like all countries, is the sport of dogging. I originally heard of this sport from a band, and I could not believe that this is actually a thing.
The sport of kings.
Has anyone participated either in the action or as a spectator? Where do these things usually happen?
Whoa, no spectators, mate. Then it's a crime.
There's another one from slightly earlier. I'm an American, and I've been curious for some time. Is dogging really common practice in the UK? I only discovered what dogging is recently, done a bit of research and read the UK actually has, and this is like an amazing conspiracy, a bit like the American right-wingers who want to claim that like everywhere in London is a no-go zone under Sharia law. There seems to be a kind of adjacent, less Islamophobic theory that we have designated dogging zones, effectively.
I mean, is there any evidence that we don't?
There's no evidence that we do. I suppose there's because of this like weird legal status, it does seem to be the case that there are places where the police will turn a blind eye to it. But I think that's slightly different from putting up a sign. That's
you are like, now entering
the dogging zone. I've done a bit of research and I read the UK actually has designated public areas for the activity. They're apparently referred to as public sex environments, or PSEs.
They're not.
I've never heard of anything like that in the States. I'm amazed that people are allowed to congregate and have sex without legal ramifications. So how common is this in the UK? Does every major town and city have dogging locations?
It's weird. Like, did you find much in terms of people's motivations for this?
It's loneliness,
but
largely.
But you can have sex in a home.
These people
can't
can't
to alleviate loneliness.
These people cannot.
Why not?
Because often I think I think the dogging it's like an aspect of swinging, right? It's related to
Yeah, but
swinging
you
culture.
could do that at a house.
I think if there's too much lighting, people are going to be saying no to a lot of the
lights
doggers.
off. What? Hang on. They're not. It's not solely happening in the pitch black. Like, you have to be able to see what you're doing.
There is actually a code which we'll get to momentarily about what level of interior lighting your car has, which sort of like the handkerchief code. It tells you like what kind of fucking you're down for.
Yeah.
But I think they must be getting off on the like the secrecy of it, but also like
Because-
the could be caught element, right?
Yeah, but the thing is if it's not even really a crime, have you got the could be caught part?
Well-
And if you've and the other point that I was coming on to that you sort of quite nicely introduced is it all that undercover if like if everyone's
knows.
doing it?
Yeah.
Like if you're all
It does feel like they're gonna have
if
to.
it's this big.
They're going to have to like up the stakes a bit and like start creeping closer and closer to like a shopping centre.
Yeah, because it just feels like all of the things that could be potential like kink aspects of this are actually sort of undermined by the practice itself. And therefore it is just a weird
But maybe
thing people
that's
seem to be
what's
doing.
hot about it. Like the fact that it's actually like, you know, it's undercover, but everyone knows about
You
it.
can't stop me, copper.
Yeah, it's like brazen. I think if you're dogging, and if you're using the term dogging to describe the sex that you're having, part of what you must be getting off on, correct me if I'm wrong, is the luridity, the severe licentious grubbiness of what you're engaging in. Because and having read the forums now, they talk about it in the most foul, like British kind of like parody, beyond parody terms of like
I don't want to hear
talking
it.
about
No, don't
tonsures
stop.
and
No,
things like that.
No, I knew you were going to say that word. I asked you. I was shaking my head. You did that without my
So
consent.
sorry, I'm so sorry.
Is there someone you're not thinking of?
Doggingforum.com has a post that is the dogging signals FAQ.
That's
And
good.
I just want to run these by you because I think one thing that people sometimes get worried about when they learn of the existence, you know, when there was like huge panic about which earring you were wearing, probably
case
even when
people
we were
think
at
that
school,
you're gay,
right? Like
yeah.
I think as recently as like the 2000s,
Yeah.
there was a thing like if someone was getting their ear pierced, it was like a big deal for a guy. And there was one ear that meant they were gay. There was one ear that meant that they'd been in prison or
There
something.
was a third ear.
There was like
total
different,
weirdo.
depending on where it was, like
Yeah.
this whole sort of playground bullshit homophobic panic emerged.
The coloured wristbands that mean you've done
oh,
different
fuck.
sexual acts.
Yeah, because of the like when it was like hope not hate and stuff, like make poverty history, like all those rubber bands that came out. That was a whole thing. There've been lots of these, and here's another one to add to the list. Basically, if you ever park your car in the UK and do one of these 6 things, you can expect to be dogging within an instant.
People will come out of the woodwork.
It's like when all of the
fuck
like
you.
the people appear in West Side Story out of the shadows. Like if you go into the middle of New York and shout "Jets," and they're just da 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 da, like coming out the windows, like the chimney sweeps in Mary Poppins rolling out of a crevice. Below are some of the more commonly recognised dogging signals in use. Flashing headlights. Any idea what that means?
Well, I mean, flashing headlights
It
of
means
what? Like
anything.
Sometimes you could do that. Like I bet so many of these things are going to be things you do if you pull over into a lay-by for help or for any reason
getting
anyway.
off.
No, for
help to like fuck some strangers.
for help
you
with
mean.
maybe your tires or something.
So have you?
Maybe
are you
this-
saying have you ever
maybe
flashed
this
your
happened.
headlights in a car?
Yeah, of course I have.
Were you asking? Are there any doggers nearby?
I was not asking that. Interesting.
Well,
do you have
weirdly
to
you
do
were.
a sort of Morse?
No, any flashing headlights is going to be read.
Any
as
headlight, any
yeah.
flashing headlights is come here.
It's a really
with
interesting-
with your todger out.
It's an interesting like epistemological question because like you are asking that question from the perspective of anyone who knows that that's what that means, right?
Yeah.
So like you're asking a question that you didn't know you were asking. It's like a weird Wittgenstein.
they are going to
talking
give
past
you
each
an
other's
answer.
sense and reference thing.
Yeah.
Where like how could you not participate in it? You'd have to just
You
flash
did
your
the
headlights in a
code.
different way. I mean,
Yeah.
flashing the brake lights, that just means the same thing. It just
Well,
says brackets.
that's for the doggers
C
behind
flashing
you.
headlights. Yeah. You want to get both sort of axes.
What
of
about
dogging.
from the sides? What
There's
if
actually no technology there?
God.
Yet.
Can I start like flashing my phone torch?
If you ever turn the interior light on, you'll probably know this. Dads in cars,
They love to say it's illegal.
they love to say that it will cause them to crash within seconds.
Yeah.
Like whenever I was in a car with like a friend's dad or something, they would make such a fuss about having the light on, even if it's like daylight.
Yeah,
Like,
the
and
interior light on.
I sort of took for granted that there must be a good reason, but then growing up, I think I
Everyone.
even asked you in a
Yeah.
car once, like, does it make it really hard to drive? The answer is, I don't think it really does.
No, it's really just it's a big lie that everyone's parents have agreed on.
And here's why. Because if you have the interior light on, it means we are playing and giving an invitation to watch.
Wow.
So you've got to be
surely
careful.
not when you're on the move.
Absolutely.
You're gonna have a fleet
like a drive-by.
of doggers behind you,
Powering
This
down the
guy's-
M25.
I'm like steaming up the M1 for work. They're like, bloody hell! When's he pulling over?
It's like a drive-in
How many
theatre
people does
that
he
never
need?
stops. If you've got the window half down, it means we're seeking interaction. Specifically, oral sex will be offered.
Well, hang on.
So you
Oral
can-
sex will be offered in terms of giving or receiving.
I think
Are they going to put their mouth to the window or their todger?
it's up to you. That's when the sparks really start flying.
Now this would be where it'd be convenient to have car technology where you could put the window half down or half up.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
would make it a lot clearer.
If the
if you've got
windows,
the door cracked, it means you're looking to give a cheeky hand job out the
if
back.
the door's open, it means we're inviting interaction. Sex must be offered.
must be offered.
So if you, I love
But
the
offered
idea of
must
like,
be offered by whom? By the people approaching or the people in the car?
No,
because
they
it
don't
must
have those-
be the
laws.
people approaching. Because like you say, if I pull over because there's my car's making a weird noise, I flick the
lights have
interior
come on,
light
that's
on and I open the door. I don't want to
You
be
must
an
be
illegally
offered.
binding contract that
the
I
police
have
won't
to fuck
intervene in.
the next person.
sorry mate,
who
you're in a
turns up.
designated fox spot.
Police car
Nothing we
driving
can
past.
do.
They've got a big folder up so they can't see.
Oh dear. And the only other one is that if the window's fully down, it means touching can be offered.
Touching can.
separate
Hang
from
on.
oral sex.
If the door's open, sex must be offered. But if the window's down, touching can.
Yeah. I think that's people can just reach in and like whoop, 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 that kind of
Yeah.
vibe while they're going.
All these people, my image of of a person who goes dogging is someone who owns all the Carry On films.
I was just thinking about this because there's a lot of farcical potential in dogging, right?
Yeah.
With all these mad signals and signs, and with the fact that it seems like in the same way that people make that interesting fact about how in London you're never like more than 1 meter away from a rat or something. It seems like it's everywhere. It's just like lurking
It's around
behind
you.
the corners, the fabric of our known reality.
Whenever you're not looking.
It does seem like you could easily sort of fluke your way into some serious dogging. Or do they want to create that impression so that they all have a kind of collective plausible deniability to be like, well, I just cracked the window to
Yeah.
signal that I was a bit warm inside, and then the law said I must offer
I really
touching.
didn't crack it to signal anything. I was just hot. This is like Carl's weird thing where he says about if you offer someone sausages or something, then that means that you're looking to swing or something.
It's I think there is something so like British about the banality of all of these codes. Like,
Well, it's because we're a nation who can't like ask people or talk to people about sex.
Yeah.
So that it has to be done through this really
remember-
weird parasocial set of codes where it's like we're a nation who loves to kind of joke about the luridity of sex, right?
Yeah.
Like Carry On films as a classic example. And I've not seen many because I fucking hate them. But like this idea of like, oh, a woman's got her tits out, like that is
missus.
just very
Uh-oh.
sexy, but also very funny.
Yeah.
Love to make a joke about that, cock jokes, whatever.
it's a weird mix of that.
But it's so repressed that the discussion of sex just drives people to distraction.
Yes.
And so therefore, instead of that, it's got to be done through all these weird, very British codes where it's like, oh, what's that? You flashed the brake light. Like, that means dick's out. Like, here we're a coming.
I remember hearing Russell Brand once talk about something he'd read. So this is very fourth hand already, which was like an analysis of Victorian sexuality, because I think the international image of Brits, presumably this is diminishing as more and more of them are met abroad and revealed to be just the horrible freaks that we are. Is that we are very repressed, right? Very like stiff upper lip and like, oh dear, oh my goodness. Like we're all C3PO basically. But the thing that he read, because nowhere is that more considered historically to have been the case than in the Victorian era.
But they were doing the filthiest of sex practices.
Like proper fucking, just everyone was scat all over
Yeah.
the place. And Russell Brand's thing that he took from this was that, like, in a society which centers the absence of sex, all that you're actually doing is centering sex, but in a very, like, lurid and intentionally provocative and prohibitive way. I remember exactly how he says it because it stuck with me as a very interesting analysis. He's like, we don't talk about sex, we never think about sex, and it's just like, it's a really good point, because so much of British society and, like you say, the fabric of our cultural comedic landscape for the 20th century is like, all this, and then the vicar said to the nurse, it's like this fucking weird, unhealthy, repressed attitude that actually just increases the level of, like, weirdness when it does flare up, and everyone's fucking on the lay-bys because they accidentally cracked the wing mirror.
We reached the sort of critical mass.
A dogging etiquette guide is an important thing to have. There are 12 things on here. I won't read them all because we've got more to get through. And I'm teaching soon. This is going to be a really
You can't
weird
let that lead into it.
Always get ready to go dogging. That makes it sound like kind of always be dogging. Sort of like, take a shower.
ABD.
Freshen up. Smell nice. And be prepared for every eventuality.
Well, also, the other meaning of this, if you take the sort of like the attitude that we were looking at the previous set of instructions with, of like, oh, this code means this, is almost a more threatening thing of like, if you're leaving the house, you must be prepared for dogging. Like, it could happen to you at any time. If one sort of like nail in the road that goes in your tyre. That's
just it.
And the next thing you know,
if you drop a coin on the floor and you turn the light
sucking
on,
some dude's todger next to the
A406. Meredith from the Women's Institute. I'll stop that.
Cracks the door.
You have to always be polite and show respect to all others who are at the dogging meet. Be patient. Wait your turn. You know?
Wait your turn. It's grim.
It's like grabbing a ticket at the butcher's counter.
Queuing. We've got to get all the other British pastimes in there.
Have a deep understanding of the frequently used dogging signals so that you have a clear sense of others' intentions. I think we've got that now. Right?
Yeah. If you do anything in your car, you are looking to fuck. That's
if you're
what
in
I've
a car,
learned.
it's basically you're basically crying out for some big dogging. Do not divulge personal information such as your real name. Likewise, if you recognise a fellow dogger out and about, protect their identity.
Yeah.
Like, come on, don't be like, Clive from the A24.
Saw you around the back of the windmill the other day, mate.
That's the wife. They've got a nice, like, it's like the countryside law or whatever it is, where, like, you have to leave the place cleaner than you found it. It's like, you may wish to pick up litter from the surrounding area as well as taking any used equipment with you afterwards.
Paraphernalia, nice.
The dogging do's and don'ts is an upsettingly alliterative term.
Don't like that.
Makes it sound like it's trying to be like a whimsical kind of thing. Do understand dogging law. Don't.
There's none.
Don't.
Wait, is that AW or ORE?
It comes from the wizard.
If you don't know the history,
Arthur Dogging.
we don't want you here.
Do practice good hygiene. Don't attend dirty hygiene. I don't like the verb attend.
Don't
here.
attend dirty hygiene. Wait, that means that almost implies the opposite of like, if you happen to be filthy, don't do anything about it.
Don't ignore the wishes of doggers. Don't disrespect the doggers.
Don't ignore the wishes of doggers. Sounds like they're doing a campaign to be like legally recognised as a minority.
Do ensure your vehicle is road legal. You don't want the police following you.
Is this? They're worried about some sort of Al Capone situation where the whole ring gets brought down because of
It's
a
like
busted
the Rico
tail
scene
light
in The Dark Knight. They get the fucking dogging mob boss.
They've been watching a Ted Bundy documentary.
Very sad. Don't go dogging near areas of known criminality, which to me is just a contradiction in terms. Don't go dogging near unsuspecting publics.
Unsuspecting publics makes it. Is that with a capital P? It sounds like muggles.
Yeah, it does.
The publics.
I wonder if they do. I didn't come across it. I didn't come across a term for. They don't have quite Ernest Cline's penchant for terminology for everything. But I bet there is a term for like the non-doggers.
The non-doggers.
I bet they're called cats or something.
Yeah, it definitely is.
The last section of the deep dive is about the people, and it's about the community.
There will always be people.
Because at the heart, look, we might take the piss out of dogging, and that's because it's ridiculous and weird and bad.
Yeah.
And
And it's British, and we're British, so you can't do us for it.
Yeah, because we're a country of scum. As
weird
you can tell.
freaks.
But behind all that freakery, and behind those cracked windows and must-be-touching, well-equipped doggers who aren't creeping up on unsuspecting publics, there are real people. And in their chest beats the same heart that
Not the
beats
same heart.
in yours.
Not the same
Basically,
heart.
you're the same
Very
as a dogger.
distinct.
Dogging.co.uk is one of the safe havens, one of the refuges, one of the tent poles of the dog community. And it's on the way out. It's shutting down. The reason for this I can't quite discern, because it's a forum which curiously makes it very
By
hard
doggers,
to
for
find.
doggers.
Yeah, I think they're going for a kind of security through obscurity thing where like it only shows you like the last months of posts. You have to do a whole thing to go through others, and I couldn't be fucked. But basically it's on the way out. This has not been met well. And before I tell you, we're going to end with like their kind of goodbye memories and some of the best things that have happened in the multi-years of dogging. But just to give you a little taste of them, they've got a big thread about musicals. And which ones they like. They all love Les Mis. A couple of them, unironically and without considering it, talk about cats. I just didn't really acknowledge that's a good joke. And then one person, at Jack117, said, "For me, it's all about Fiddler on the Roof. Different connotations these days, though, especially for wee doggers."
Oh, no.
So that implies that there's a type of dogging
they
that takes
think
place
it's...
on the like roof rack of a car.
Oh,
I think.
no.
Yeah.
That's such a shame.
a
I bet they all love, like, Pirates of Penzance, that sort of thing.
Gilbert and Sullivan was in
Gilbert
the thread.
Sullivan,
Yeah,
of course
yeah,
it was.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The thread that we're going to end on is about memories, and what are your favourite memories of this place over the years was posted by a user 6 weeks ago. The user's no longer on the site. It was like they posted this and then they deleted their account because it was probably really painful. If you've got to know and love a place,
Like
kind of digital
dogging.co.uk.
which for many of us in the UK comes preloaded as our homepage by government mandate.
If you buy an Amstrad...
Oh, that's funny. The thread is quite long, so I've just taken some kind of highlights from it.
Yeah.
And we'll just read through. And I think the tone here is one of collective realization that maybe the times are moving on, because it doesn't seem to be the case that dogging is like carrying itself forwards very well. They're aware that they're aging out of the dogging scene, and once they can't get it up anymore, maybe no one can.
No one's
They're
going
the
to hold
last,
up
it's
the
like
mantle.
Morris dance.
Yeah.
They're the last bastions of a great cultural tradition and heritage. This was really my first porn site, and even though dogging is not my thing, it made me realise that even at my age, there's still a great deal of fun to be had on the roads.
What? on the roads is it's a great addendum to that. There's a great... Even... I'm not into dogging.
What are they
Dogging's
into?
not my thing.
I just jack it
use
on the
this as a
motorway.
porn site, but there's fun for me on the roads. He just likes to drive along the roads knowing maybe, just maybe,
Just with a little
beyond the
twinkle in his
hedgerows...
eye. What are you so happy about, Dave? Never you mind. And he has a wry smile.
A wry smile
there's
and a
dissolve.
bulging crotch.
Some of my meets, guys that travelled from all over the country, just a little aside, there are threads every month or so where prominent doggers
Famous doggers
they
doing
will send a
visit.
Google Maps of like
Dropping
like tour
a pin.
dates. It's literally like
Fucking hell.
I'll be here on this day. That like someone had, no joke, a 3-month plan where they were at a different dogging site every 2 days.
And people were coming from all over the country to fuck them.
They're actually such a well-known dogger that there was another thread later that was like, is this person for real? Like, are they a real person?
And so
everyone
we
was
don't
like,
know
they
their
are.
identity.
No, they're
like-
hidden identity.
They're like drill.
Drill's gonna
dogging.
sue us. Guys that travelled from all over the country to meet up, and boy were they great meets. I've had some great friends too. Used to have brilliant chats with some great couples, Flo and Zeb, to name a few. Reading the
Flo and
forums.
Zeb, to name a few great couples like Flo and Zeb, and other great couples just like that.
This one, I was about to skip it, but then I realised I'd skimmed over a key section. I met my soulmate here. Lots of giggles and fun at past socials with mad people. Many chats with friends, people, and 1 or 2 I'll be devastated to not talk to anymore. As I said, I met my soulmate here, PVC. It wasn't meant to be, as he sadly developed a brain tumour. And then there's the like sad emoticon. But like the forum emoticon, you know, like this guy. Not an emoji.
Yeah, no. The
Fucking like BB press shit. I personally have so many good memories from here. over the years, I've met some amazing people and had some earth-moving
They know
meets.
they could put up they could still chat to Flo and Zeb.
You can't. You'll never... It's one of those things, right, where it's like, you know,
You'll never
after a
capture the
show
magic.
or something, yeah, like, you're like, oh my God, we should keep in touch. Like, this was so great. But the thing that bonded them was, like, the community aspect. And you'll never get that lightning in a bottle with Flo and Zeb and PVC before he sadly passed away. And all the others. Like, that dogging moment is burned bright, but it's burning out now. We're in the embers.
Oh.
Life goes on and we have to roll with the times. I'll try to keep up with it all, but good luck to everyone else and thank you for being part of my life for so long. XXX.
They're talking like
From Debs.
they're being culled.
Yeah, they are. They're talking like they've been like rendered no longer sterile. Or something,
Yeah.
no longer fertile. I remember some right laughs in chat and some horny cams. Some sights I'll never get out of my head and some I'm still laughing about now. Lunges in a mankini is one that springs to mind.
What?
Listen to the development of this rule of three. We used to have quizzes, sing-alongs, tag team sex on cams, and so many characters that would take me an age to name.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Then the night a man was chatting us up on his mic and thought we were the only one who could hear him. He also had someone else's sound on and thought I had a big deep voice and was wondering why the answer he was getting made no sense, crying with laughter emoji. Then the forums where we used to have a real laugh. Cheryl and her ship springs to mind and kept people amused for months with her ass. Mr. Someone, Mr. Someone
with her ass.
with his...
What was Cheryl possibly doing with her ass for months?
She was on a world tour.
Doing some sort of
the North
puppetry.
Circular.
Like, what?
Mr. Someone with his banana. All in all, what a lot of fun. Meeting a pleasant lady in Wells, the venue of Hot Fuzz, bit of trivia, sat in a pub chatting to a lovely old unit with a walking stick whilst awaiting my bell. Needless to say, 'twas said bell. Very pleasant all the same. We had a lie down with the old thing in the back of my car, brackets, not my preferred venue, but I was easily coerced. Left rather more bodily fluids behind than I'd normally expect, plus a shoe. Never saw her again. That's from Rigidly Flexible.
No.
I've loved this place.
It honestly, like, weirdly, despite everything else that we've said this episode, the sex seems to
Secondary.
If I may make a joke, seems to be taking a back seat
Nice.
to the rest of the stuff, which seems to be, like we say, a lot of stuff about fruit and doing a quiz and just having having some friends. Maybe
it basically is a
just
big
need,
lonely club, isn't it?
God.
I think the dogging to incel pipeline would be an interesting one to explore. Because I actually don't think there is one. Because I think dogging might be for people who would have been incels but have realised that you can fuck a bunch of other.
You can be
desperate
ugly and
people.
fuck ugly people. Yeah.
I've loved this place under various guises since about 2008. I've seen loads of wonderful people come and go, and it was sad when they went. But now it's the time for us all to go. I feel like a violinist on that Titanic. I've seen lots of lovely boobs on here. Guess that's been the happiest memory. And I've also been privileged enough that some great folks have shared their innermost thoughts with me. The most bizarre event must be when Wanchop announced he was dying, but it turned out he was lying. Wow.
The Owen Wilson. Wow.
And then finally, just to round us off, from Slut and Hubby, which is a couple of MFs.
I like that he is not a slut. No. He's just
pretty
brings
conservative guy.
brings the biscuits along.
Reading these memories makes me feel really sad. And that's the end of the forum. That was 6 weeks ago. There haven't been many posts since, but that was the last big thread and the last hurrah.
They all
of dogging.
they wanted to leave before they were sort of deleted, as it were.
I think it's fair to say that in this episode we've interrogated an aspect of culture that many have been too proud to kind of dive into.
Many have had too much else to say that they didn't have to. They didn't have to resort to this sort of stuff.
And isn't it always been in the TAS remit that we've got to leave no stone unturned? Whether that's a stone under which there's a bunch of ugly guys fucking in a lay-by, or a different stone that we might look at another time. Maybe also about that topic.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is it's a dogging only show.
That's why the logo.
Oh God, Dog Pod. Oh God, Dog Pod is his name. Yeah.
With our famous episode, Dog Block. Oh God, Dog Pod, Dog Block.
It's very Bojack.
Fuck's sake.
The community of doggers out there is on the way out. And I think, no matter our feelings about them, it's always sad when that happens, right? When you look around the room and you read the vibe, you take the temperature and you think, this is over. And some people will leave straight away.
We're losing part of our heritage.
This, for me, is, I can't stress enough, it's exactly the same as the end of Ocean's 11 when they're at the fountains at the Bellagio.
Yep.
And you see how different people respond in those situations. There's a sickening, gut-wrenching sadness to the gang breaking up that's only remedied by Ocean's 12 and 13 for me. When you see, like, I think Brad Pitt leaves quite early. He's like one of those people who he takes the sadness. He's still sad. You know he is. Just because he's a cool guy.
Devastated.
But he's like, right, you know what? I want to leave before it's like the end. I want to get out and try and remember the good times. I think it might be Don Cheadle that stays quite a long time. And possibly it's Matt Damon who's the last person left. Whoever it is, that is the person that I think is the dogger of the group. Because they're
a tenacious bunch
going
of
down
bastards.
with the ship, right?
Yeah.
And they're steeped in a very British nostalgia.
And they're perhaps hoping that, like the classic British bulldog, the
bulldogging,
the classic British underdogging, that from the ashes, of the demise of dogging.biz or whatever it was,
grow the roses of success.
Exactly.
I'm here to say there won't be another dogging 2.0. I think we didn't do predictions at the start of this year, I don't think, but if we had, I think dogging has had its day. Every dog has had its day.
Let sleeping doggers lie.
God, this is some good shit, guys. This is free. This is fucking free. And perhaps it's for the best.
There are lots of British phrases that include the word dog. We haven't looked at why.
I think perhaps we can, with a smile in our hearts and a twinkle in our eye, think fondly of those doggers who carried the torch back in the day and who, although they're hanging up there...
The great doggers in the sky.
They're hanging up
Do
their
all
boots
doggers
now,
go to heaven?
putting their car keys down in the bowl for one final jaunt. We've got to know that on the shoulders of those giants, we stand ready to rebuild this great nation.
Wow.
Powerful stuff.
Truly, I kind of feel, and I guess that this is fitting. I feel sort of spent.
Oh, well, there you go.
I didn't know what a journey I'd go on. I didn't realise, in much that same way that, there's that weird dating app that's like, about chance encounters, right? It's about like people you've walked past. Ooh. It has like your GPS on it. It's like, you were close to, you like walked by this person. That's cool. Maybe you're interested in each other.
Because you both like this same road.
Yeah. To think about the times in my life where I have been driving and I've had to pull over, and just to think how close I may have come to being part of this
You're
great
probably looking
community.
Back regretfully and being like, if only I'd cracked the window halfway.
I regret taking the chance at all, to be honest.
I regret driving.
It sounds like I may have been entering into a sort of binding agreement that I had no idea of. But
once a dogger, always a dogger.
But yeah, it's interesting. It's a part of British life that has been there in the periphery, I think, for us both, but never at the forefront. And you can't do everything in life. No. You can't. And it sounds like we've missed the bus on this one. But maybe the next great British tradition, we will be on that one.
Yeah. And it's only through like reverence for our past that we can really forge a brand new future in memory of all those doggers who died.
True.
Let's do some plugs.
God, and haven't we got them now?
Yeah,
guys,
so much shit.
Let's have a little look. Next week, there will not be TAS.
Yeah.
We don't do that every week anymore.
Bi-weekly.
We're bi-weekly, not twice a week.
No. The other
once every other week. Because on alternating Sundays now, we have our new show, which is called Big Bad Books.
Hella good feedback so far.
Yeah, people have been really, really lovely about it. Some very generous 5-star reviews that people have left over at shame.city/book review.
Yeah, please leave one.
But there's always room for more.
There are.
But yeah, that's a show, if you don't know already, where every other week we're going to be going through a chapter of just one of the worst books that there is.
Yeah.
Our first season is about Ernest Cline's Ready Player 2. Isaac is steaming through that book. He's loving it to bits. We're going to have the 4th chapter, I believe it is, maybe, on this week's episode. You can follow us at Big Bad Books for that, and you can subscribe to us anywhere where they do podcasts.
Yeah, go to shame.city/book I think, or books. I can't remember, one of the two, maybe both, for the link. We've got, if you'd like to share this show with people, shame.city/TAS. Maybe there are some doggers in your family who'd like to hear themselves venerated in an audio means. Shame.city is our hub for everything as well, so check that out.
Or follow us at Shame City Gang. That's where we're doing lots of stuff there.
We stream on Twitch.
Yeah, we're affiliates
Prolifically.
now.
And that's over at shame.city/Twitch. We are Monday to Thursday about 9 o'clock UK time, and then Sundays sometimes as well.
And look, if you're ever lost or if you're wondering what to do, you can head over to shame.city/Discord, where we and the community reside, and we will guide you. We will welcome you into our arms. And the dog will even say hello. Yep. They do that. And yeah, it's a really nice bunch of people
Beautiful
over there.
vibes. Until next time. I've been Isaac. You've been...
I've been Declan.
Crack that window.
Bye, guys.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. For the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. Come to you.